Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another TV book review. And today we're going to be discussing the third book in the TV book series, Goosebumps Presents TV Books, in case you haven't heard of it. And it is the adaptation for Welcome to Camp Nightmare. Now, if you're not familiar about these TV books, there was a series of 18 books released in the 90s in conjunction with the Goosebumps TV show, and 18 of the books adapted episodes primarily from seasons 1 and 2, I think exclusively. I don't think they did any season 3 episodes off the top of my head. But these were made to be supplements for episodes that didn't receive VHS releases, I think exclusively in America and or Canada. So often people wonder why certain TV books were made, like why wasn't Haunted Mask made? And my best theory is, considering that every single TV book that was made didn't get a VHS release, I'm almost confident that they chose these ones because they weren't going to get VHS's release. And specifically with the two-parters, like this one and Attack of the Mutant are ones that a lot of people raise questions about. But I feel like they made this one because they didn't have a VHS for it. Now, for those of you that don't know how I review TV book adaptations on the channel, they're not really like real books. They're made to be supplements for the episodes, so that's how I rate the books. A 5 out of 5 would be a perfect supplement. It's a spot-on adaptation to the episode. However, when it gets lower than a 5, that's when it gets interesting. This is where I think the one series I rate on the channel, where the lower the score, the more interesting the book. This one is probably going to be more boring of a review because it's so spot on, but those things do happen in this series. Now, there are some peculiar things I'm going to highlight as I go through this book review, but this is a pretty faithful adaptation. It's based on this teleplay by Jeff Cohen. I think that's his name. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, Jeff Cohen, and it's adapted by Megan Stein. So Megan Stein is the one who actually put the text into Word. Now, I'm pretty sure that the text for these books come from the actual teleplays itself, and they just like copy and paste most of it. And some of the books, I think, are probably from the original teleplays, not the revised or on-the-spot edited for the episode while they were filming or stuff like that. So sometimes you'll get these weird little idiosyncrasies with these books. This one doesn't have that much, like I said, but we'll get into that later. So let's get into the plot overview without giving too much away. So this book starts off like the episode, and it introduces the character named Billy. Now, off the bat, this book jumps right in and declares that Billy is a 13-year-old kid. Now, if you have not read the adaptation, the actual book, Welcome to Camp Nightmare, Billy is for sure 12 years old. And I always found it fascinating when the show has done this. Now, I learned this after the fact and after I reviewed the book in the episode, but Werewolf of Fever Swamp and some newspaper revealed Grady's age to be 14. So in this book, Billy's aged up a year to 13. So he sounds, or I guess by the book, he's a bit older than he is in the actual book. So off the bat, that's another change that is kind of fun to note. But that's basically the only change you're going to see that's relatively different from the book and the episode in this. But yeah, you hear a monologue from Billy. You hear about Dory, Dawn, Colin, Mike, Roger, and Jay, I think that's his name. Roger is not a big important figure in the book, but in the episode and this adaptation, Roger is going to be one of his bunkmates, as you'll see. But yeah, it starts off on the bus heading to Camp Night Moon. You have the girls and the guys. Billy's talking about how he feels about people around him. Then they come to a sudden halt around this dirt corner out in the middle of nowhere, and the bus driver orders them to get off the bus, like the episode. And when they get off the bus, everybody's starting to question what's going on, and the bus driver doesn't mention anything back. He just takes all the suitcases out and then turns around and leaves them there. And the kids are all by themselves. And then they hear this rustling sound from the bush, and there's this creature. And that's when the kids start to freak out a little bit. And just when they think things are about to go really bad, there's this huge explosion that appears to have taken care of this situation. And it comes from this flare gun by this older gentleman, and he introduces himself as Uncle Al. And Uncle Al reveals himself to be the head guy that runs Camp Night Moon, which is the camp they're all attending. And he has brought counselors to bring the campers back to the boys' camp and to the girls' camp portions of Camp Night Moon. So this is where we get to see all the boys, like the episode. You see a little bit of the personalities. Roger is just, according to Billy, he's the one that makes bad jokes. Mike is the one, he's kind of soft-spoken. Jay seems to be the one that's, he seems to be the cool kid, wearing muscle shirts but doesn't have much muscle. And Colin is this guy who dresses in like black bandanas and is cool. And then he has this crush on this girl named Dawn, and her friend Dory is not all that important, just like the episode, but she's also featured in this a little bit. But they, he has a exchange of how, conversation with Dawn, and then they split off. So they head to the camp, and like the episode, Billy and his bunkmates get acquainted into the cabin, and this is when the whole snake thing happens with Mike, like the episode, and Mike gets bitten on the hand by the snake, and Billy has to, test his courage a little bit and take the sheet and wrap the snake and throw it out the window. And the iconic scene of Billy finding the Saber is hungry message in the cabin is there too. And then, of course, we get to see Larry, who busts in and confronts the kids by throwing why they threw the sheet out the window, and the whole Mike requesting the bandage scene happens. And then it cuts to later that night where they go to the campfire, and Uncle Al is singing the song by the campfire, and Billy is tending to Mike's hurt hand. And Uncle Al gets mad at Billy, and then Billy says, "Hey, I'm just looking out for his hand." And then Uncle Al looks at it and tries to fix the situation, and then apologizes to Billy for standing up for a fellow camper. And of course, Billy doesn't know what to think of it. He thinks that nobody seems to be caring about Mike's hand. There's no nurse at the camp. And it cuts to the next morning, and Mike is gone, and he has no idea where Mike is. So Billy walks out of the cabin, and he goes to the woods, and he gets confronted by this man who says that if you want to find your friend, you got to talk to Uncle Al. So it cuts to Billy, wanting to go talk to Uncle Al, but they have to go play this thing called, I think, what is it, like Wiffle Ball or Skip Ball or something like that. And so he decides just to go do Skip Ball. And when he gets to Skip Ball, this is where the whole scene happens, where he asks Uncle Al what happened to Mike, and Mike and he says, "Don't worry about him, just worry about having fun and play some ball." And they're playing ball, and then the whole scene with Larry beaming the ball down third base and hitting Colin in the head happens. And this is all going on after Mike just suddenly disappeared, and now he's worried that Larry purposely tried to injure Colin, and Colin has this head injury. Now, the comedy from Colin is not the same as the episode. I think there's a little bit added things in the episode that the book doesn't have. This is kind of a rarity, I guess, for these books, but the premise is still there, where he gets hit in the head and he gets a head injury, and Billy takes him back to the cabin so they can rest his head, but they don't have that much time because they have to get ready to go camp out that night, because it's their cabin's turn to go and sleep under the stars for survival. So, of course, the boys in the cabin get prepared, but like the episode, they want to go and venture off into this thing called the Forbidden Bunk. Now, Uncle Al put down some rules for the campers, just like the episode. There's specific rules they have to follow. Like, one is like writing home to your parents every single day. Follow the curfew rules, be in bed by a certain time, be up by a certain time, things like that. And then, it wasn't really a rule, but Uncle Al put it like, it's the forbidden bunk. And they ask him why it's forbidden. He goes, because it's forbidden. It's in the name, you know? So, obviously the kids are curious and want to go check it out. But Colin, since he has such a bad head injury, and, you know, I think Billy, you know, comes off better in the TV book and the episode with a more sense of reason. He's like, no, I'll just hang out with Colin. So Jay and Roger decide to split off when it comes time for the tent thing, and they split off and they do their thing. And then, of course, the whole thing happens with Jay running back saying that Colin got eaten, and, you know, lo and behold, Billy tries to go help Jay, and Colin's in the sleeping bag, and then, no, Roger, I mean Roger. Roger was eaten, and they try to drag Colin out and they try to run away from Saber and go hide in the cabin, and they lock themselves in the cabin. And then, you know, the funny scene happens with Colin trying to squirm under the bed, and then they ask Larry about, hey, look, Saber's outside. He's like, what are you talking about? And the boys are like, you gotta be kidding me. You don't know what happened to Roger and all this, and like the episode. And really, that's where the part one ends for the episode, and then part two begins. And it's like, it continues on when the next morning happens. And, of course, they confront Larry at the mess hall about Roger, and he says, all right, I'll talk to Uncle Al about it. And then he's like, get your swim trunks ready, we're going to the water. And then the whole canoe thing happens with Jay and Colin, where they presumably drown, and Larry runs off. And the whole thing happens with Billy as well, trying to call home. He has a weird interaction with Uncle Al, talking about Roger, saying that they don't have anybody on file named Roger, and it's starting to really spiral Billy. He goes back to the room, his cabin, all alone, and after just being in the lake trying to save Colin and Jay from drowning, and he has no idea what to do. But he says he gets his dry clothes on, he gets a baseball bat and a flashlight, and he decides to try to go find some answers. And he ends up in the forbidden bunk with letters strewn around everywhere, and he goes inside the forbidden bunk and encounters Dawn, and Dawn reveals that she's ran away, and Billy discovers that these letters were never mailed, and people presumably have died at this camp, and he's had enough of it. Camp is over. So he looks out the window and sees that there's a team being organized by Uncle Al, wearing all camouflage now, and he goes to confront them, and he's gathering crossbows for all the boys to wield to go hunt down somebody, and it's revealed to be one of the girls who escaped from the girls' camp, who obviously is Dawn. And Billy stands up to Uncle Al, and something may happen, and then there's a big twist which reveals what's going on with the whole story. And that's essentially the episode in a nutshell, just in TV book form. Yeah, it's very faithful. Really, there's nothing different about it. I kind of went down the whole plot of the episode again for the TV book. It's essentially the same thing. There are some added things that the episode has that are cut out of it. So I guess the little differences here are things that it doesn't change from the episode. It just omits them. So I can't really say that that's something that it does different than the episode. It just omits things. Or maybe the episode added things. Maybe this is the original draft or the original screenplay, and the episode added things as Ron Oliver went along or something. I don't know. But for the most part, yeah, this is spot on. The only thing peculiar about it that I will note, the only thing peculiar is that it does feel a little more summarized. It does cut out a little bit of humor scenes, or I guess omits them. And the whole Billy thing with him being 13, I guess is a cool reference point, but you don't need to read the whole book to know that reference point. You can literally just probably turn to one of the first 2 pages and be fine. So when it comes to me rating this book, it's pretty faithful to the episode. Since Billy's age was never mentioned in the episode, this is something that it adds, but nothing really to deduct points on. So I guess from a 0 to 5 star rating, I give this about a 5 out of 5. Now, however, if I had to recommend one or the other, you really could read this if you want to, but I just recommend go watching the episode. The episode comes off more funnier. There's a lot more extra things you're going to get out of the episode that the book just omits. But if you just wanted to, you know, maybe read something for nostalgia purposes, or maybe you have this lying around, this is a pretty good supplement for the episode, and you could read it instead, and it's pretty faithful. So yeah, 5 out of 5, pretty spot on. Nothing really to note differently here. So yeah, that's my review of the TV book of Welcome to Camp Nightmare. Let me know down in the comment section. Do you like this TV adaptation? Or do you hate it? I'm dying to know, and I'll see you next time.